Let me take you back to that fateful night where everything began. Imagine being in your bedroom, scrolling through your phone, when suddenly your radio crackles to life. It's just static at first, harmless, normal static. But then, faintly, almost imperceptibly, you hear something. A voice? A whisper? The longer you listen, the more unsettling it becomes. The voice grows clearer, but distorted. It's a message, but the words don't quite make sense. The static begins to intensify. The whispers become more frantic. You turn the volume up, hoping to catch something more, but the airwaves cut out completely. Silence. Absolute silence. Please kindly hit the like button, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next chilling tales. It was August 22nd, 2015. The night seemed like any other. Quiet, unassuming, with the typical hum of city lights and distant traffic. Yet, as the clock struck midnight, something strange pierced through the stillness of the night. A radio broadcast, seemingly normal at first, began to play on an obscure, forgotten station. But then, something happened. A sound, faint and eerie, began to intrude. The crackle of static, a distorted voice cutting through the airwaves. A message that would never be forgotten. The broadcast, which would come to be known as radio silence, lasted for only a few minutes. But those who heard it would never forget what they experienced. As the radio waves faded out, so did the station, vanishing without a trace, leaving only a chilling silence in its wake. Was it a hoax? A late-night prank? Or something far darker? In the years since, people have tried to piece together the final transmission. But what if the last sounds you ever heard weren't just static? What if they were a chilling premonition? For years, that was all anyone knew about radio silence. Just a few distorted sounds, a brief haunting message, and an untraceable disappearance. But now, after years of searching, we're going to decode the chilling final broadcast of radio silence. We'll listen closely to every second of that broadcast and uncover the cryptic clues buried deep within its fractured signals. The first time the radio silence broadcast was heard, it seemed like a glitch, a mistake, something that would quickly be swept under the rug. But as more and more listeners tuned in, the mystery began to grow. Here, let's listen to the first segment of the broadcast. A mere minute of audio captured by a few lucky, or perhaps cursed listeners. The audio plays. A low static fills the airwaves, interrupted by faint whispers. Words struggle to form, garbled by the distortion. For the untrained ear, it's just noise. But for the keen listener, there's something off. Among the static, you hear a fragment of a sentence, barely audible. The time is too late. No return. The voices fluctuate, seemingly layered over one another. The eerie hum that follows has an almost mechanical sound to it. A pause. Another voice, barely discernible, says something about the final message awaiting. And then, just before it all cuts out, nothing. Absolute silence. As unsettling as it is, this brief segment doesn't answer much. But the static, the whispers, what could they mean? At first, many thought it was just a glitch, a malfunction of the transmission equipment. But the more people listened, the more the questions piled up. Who was speaking? What were they trying to say? Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next chilling tales. The broadcast, when analyzed in more detail, reveals even more peculiarities. People have dissected every second of the transmission, some even using spectral analysis to decode hidden messages. One theory that emerged involved a series of strange numbers that seemed to appear sporadically throughout the transmission. Some researchers believe these numbers were a code, perhaps part of an encrypted message. Others suggest they were references to coordinates, longitude, and latitude points. Were these numbers meant to direct someone to a specific place? Or were they just a random jumble created to confuse listeners? Then there were the strange bursts of music. Unexpected, jarring, like fragments of songs from different eras, 20th century jazz, classical, and even eerie, discordant notes that didn't belong to any genre at all. These fragments seemed to emerge in the background, out of nowhere, before fading into the static once more. What if these were the real clues? What if the strange music had a deeper meaning, a signal hidden within the chaos? Was this a coded message? Was it the key to understanding what happened to radio silence? Some listeners began to speculate that the broadcast was no accident. What if the last broadcast of radio silence was a prelude to something far more sinister? Some said it was a warning, a cry for help from someone who had discovered something they shouldn't have. The true mystery of radio silence didn't just captivate those who heard it. It began to spread across the internet, sparking theories and speculation. People began sharing their own encounters with the broadcast, comparing notes, dissecting the clues. Some believed it was an elaborate hoax, part of an ARG, alternate reality game, designed to create a puzzle that listeners could solve over time. Others, however, were far more skeptical. The most chilling theory? That the broadcast was a failed experiment, perhaps involving government agencies or worse, something far more ominous. What if the broadcast was a last, desperate cry from a source that had been silenced? An experiment gone wrong, or a rogue signal from a secretive operation? Then there were those who claimed the message was more personal. Could this broadcast have been someone's final transmission? A last warning, or perhaps an apology? The idea of a final message, broadcast to the world before disappearing without a trace, resonated deeply with many. The unsettling nature of the static, the broken fragments of speech, the haunting music, all of it pointed to something darker than a mere transmission error. After years of investigation and speculation, what can we conclude about the final broadcast of radio silence? Was it a hoax? A government experiment gone wrong? Or something far more unsettling? Perhaps a premonition, a warning of something yet to come? Here's what we know for sure. The broadcast was real, the mystery is unsolved, and the impact it has had on internet culture cannot be ignored. People continue to debate, analyze, and discuss the meaning of those last haunting sounds. But one thing is certain, the mystery of radio silence is far from over. Could the static have been a coded message? A warning about an event we haven't yet understood? Or perhaps it was a final plea for help, lost in the airwaves of history? As the months passed since the broadcast, a new wave of interest began to stir. Amateur radio enthusiasts, conspiracy theorists, and even former government agents all began revisiting the transmission. Some believed they had uncovered new pieces of the puzzle, other fragments of the broadcast that had never been played publicly. Others pointed to obscure, forgotten frequencies in the static, suggesting they were deliberately hidden, only for the sharpest listeners to catch. Then, an unsettling discovery surfaced. An encrypted message, buried deep in the noise. It wasn't decoded by traditional means, but through advanced technology that analyzed the waveform and detected hidden patterns. The cryptic message read, "The silence is louder than you think. The clock is ticking." These words alone sent shockwaves through those who had been following the mystery. Who could have sent this message, and what was the clock referring to? Was it a literal countdown to something ominous? Or was it an abstract warning? A symbol for a looming event that none of us could predict? Theories began to shift. The idea of a government experiment, while still plausible, seemed less likely. The cryptic nature of the broadcast, and the fact that some believed they had uncovered hidden clues months after the broadcast, pointed to something far more complex. What if it was not just a message from someone on the outside, but a warning from within, someone who had uncovered something they were not supposed to? Some listeners began to draw connections to world events, both past and present. Could the broadcast have been a premonition, a signal sent before a major event in history? People noted patterns of distress in the world. The sudden rise of unexplained phenomena, secretive disappearances, and the resurgence of conspiracy theories surrounding global powers. Was there a connection to all of these things? Or was it simply coincidence? For years, the mysterious transmission of radio silence had remained an unsolved enigma. But with new clues emerging and experts analyzing the cryptic messages left behind, one thing became clear. The broadcast wasn't just a random occurrence. It was a thread in a much larger, more disturbing tapestry. And the further people dug, the more they realized there was something darker at play. A group of amateur coders, determined to uncover the truth, began working together to break the encryption in the static. Their research suggested that the broadcast wasn't just a warning for people to pay attention. It was a call to action. Each member of the group began receiving strange communications, untraceable messages that seemed to come from nowhere, each one offering new clues, piecing together a narrative that was more unsettling than the last. They were no longer just decoding static. They were unraveling a story that had been hidden for years, one step ahead of them at every turn. It was clear that whatever the broadcast had been, it was only the beginning. The unsettling echoes of radio silence weren't just about one final transmission. They were about something far more significant, something that had been lurking in the shadows of our reality, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. As the investigation deepened, one question remained unanswered. Who had orchestrated this eerie broadcast? Was it a single person, a rogue entity, or something far larger, manipulating events from behind the scenes? And most chilling of all, why? Theories began to suggest that the broadcast might not be the end, but a warning for a far greater event yet to unfold. It was becoming increasingly clear that the radio silence broadcast wasn't a standalone incident. It was a ripple in a much larger global pattern, a precursor to something catastrophic that had yet to be revealed. The final broadcast had gone silent, but its echoes continued to reverberate throughout the world. What had once seemed like a random piece of eerie radio noise was slowly becoming an alarm, ringing louder with each new discovery. Whatever lay ahead, it was undeniable. Radio silence had not only captured the imagination of a generation, but it had also sparked a global conversation. And as more clues surfaced, one thing was certain. The mystery had only just begun. But even as the puzzle pieces were being assembled, a chilling thought lingered in the minds of those who listened closely. What if the true meaning of radio silence was not in the message, but in the silence that followed? What if the real mystery was not about decoding the transmission, but about discovering what happened to the person or people who made that final broadcast? The hunt for answers would continue. Never forget, hidden messages often lie within the most unsettling and mysterious events, urging us to look deeper and question the ordinary. And sometimes, silence and seemingly insignificant clues may carry profound warnings about things we have yet to understand. Please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next chilling tales.